Pokemon has just revealed some wild new cards, and these are about to change everything. So today, I'm going to break down every new important card that has been revealed, talking about what they do, how strong they are, and what they mean in the upcoming meta. So if you want to stay on top of every card reveal and meta update, make sure to like this video and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. So without further ado, let's dive in. So starting off, we have the Mega Froslass EX. The Mega Froslass EX is a relative new Mega Pokemon. It has just been revealed in Legend CA, and we're already seeing a card from it. So your question might be now, what does the Mega Froslass do? So for 1 water energy, it has the Rebellion attack, which does 50 times the damage, equals the number of cards in your opponent's hand. And as we all know, drawing large hands isn't very uncommon for decks such as Golden Go, let's say Zoroark, just to name a few, maybe even Dragapult with the Recon Directive. So doing 50 damage for each card in their hand is quite huge. So let's say if they have a 7 card hand as a Dragapult player, you're doing 350 damage with your Mega Froslass EX against a Dragapult. Of course, against Golden Go, you might expect some return KO because we all know Golden Go loves to take big one-hit knockouts. So I don't suppose it's going to do a lot in that matchup. But the second attack might. And its second attack, Absolute Snow, does 150 damage, and your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep, which is a big deal because if you're asleep, you can't attack or retreat, but you can override it with, let's say, a switch or a Professor Tura scenario, or maybe even if you play the Pachorans and you switch a Dark Pokemon into the active spot, which you retreat later on, then you can get out of the asleep status, or if you flip heads at the start of your turn. But this is going to be a big deal. I think the Mega Froslass EX can be combined with, let's say, the other Froslass from Twilight Masquerade, which ramps up the damage in between turns. Of course, this Mega Froslass EX doesn't have an ability, but maybe with the combination of Monkey Dory, we can channel over that damage, taking even larger knockouts, or perhaps even multiple. So I'm excited to see what this Mega Froslass EX will be doing in the upcoming meta, and we're seeing the cards in just 2 weeks. Now moving on, we have a new ENS Pokemon, being the ENS Vanilluxe. So I'm very excited to see we get some new trainers Pokemon. I hope they don't stop there and we get some new support for maybe Aino, maybe Cynthia, or perhaps even more Lily's Pokemon. I'm very excited to see what they will be doing for the owner's Pokemon. So what does the ENS Vanilluxe do? It has the Layered Snow attack. So it says, place damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon until their damage is doubled. This is a big deal. But getting to play this in, let's say, Zoroark will be quite tricky. Or just we have to reinvent the entire archetype again. Like I said, the Zoroark archetype is quite misunderstood now. There are so many ways we can take the archetype, but we need the support to do so. So imagine the Zoroark playing more Monkey Dory counts, channeling over the damage, and then maybe even play Technical Machine Devolution, or then copy the Vanilluxe's attack to double the damage counters which are being placed by the Zoroark. Because otherwise, the damage was always capped on 170 because you copied Virtuous Flame. So imagine against a Charizard player, you're doing Virtuous Flame against the Pidgeot, against the Charizard, and perhaps against another Charizard, and then copy ENS Vanilluxe's attack to get 6 prize cards, because Virtuous Flame does 170 damage to the opponent's active Pokemon, and then copying the Vanilluxe's attack doubles the damage on the opponent's Pokemon, knocking out 3 Pokemon. That is a big deal. So I'm excited to see how the ENS Zoroark archetype is going to change after this set. And we're not just getting the ENS Vanilluxe, we're also getting the ENS Zekrom. Yes, indeed. Like, we already had the ENS Reshiram, and now we're getting the ENS Zekrom. So what does the ENS Zekrom do? It has a Shred type attack, so for 70 damage, this attack's damage isn't affected by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. This is also a big deal because now you can play Maximum Belt in ENS Zoroark, countering the Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon EX, which was a big deal against Zoroark decks because Zoroark has an ability be being traded, and you couldn't damage the Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon. But now, if you copy the Ent's Zekrom attack, you can do damage against the Cornerstone. And with the maximum belt, you get to amplify that damage by 50 because it's an EX Pokemon, so you do 120 damage to the Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon. Of course, not enough to knock it out in one turn. If the opponent plays with the strategy of the Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon in mind, the 120 does matter because the next turn the Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon is knocked out and they have no bench left for it. And it also has a second attack, being Rampage Thunder. So Rampage Thunder does 250 damage, and then it says this Pokemon can't attack during your next turn. But that is all fine because we play, like I said, with the Froslass, we play the Peturant, so we can switch another Ansorowak into the active spot and just attack with that Pokemon because it says this Pokemon can't attack during your next turn. But if you have a benched Zoroark waiting with energies on it, you can just switch it into the active spot. That effect gets nullified and you can attack with the new Zoroark. And of course, 250 damage is quite relevant because especially in the Golden Go matchup, they always one-shot the Zoroarks, but the Zoroarks can't build up enough damage to one-shot the Golden Goes. But now with 250 damage, we can tech in, let's say, some Town Stores and some Vitality Bands to be able to hit 260 damage to one-shot the Golden Goes. And that's going to be a big deal because Golden Go was already a bad matchup, but this Zekrom card can fix everything. And for the last card that gets revealed is the Anthea and Concordia. Now imagine Exodia in Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, this supporter card is the equivalent in Pokemon. So this is going to be another buff in the Zoroark archetype, but it's quite tricky to pull off. Let me show you. So you can only play this card if you have an Darmanitan, Zoroark, Reshiram, Zekrom, Klinklang, and Vanilluxe in play. That is a huge requirement. You get 2 stage 2s, 2 basic Pokemon, and 2 stage 1s. Your entire board has to be filled up with Ents Pokemon, and having only one Zoroark in play means you get to choose wisely which attack you're going to be using, because the supporter card says during this turn, if your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an attack from one of your Ents Pokemon, take 3 more prize cards. That is huge because you can knock out a 2 prize Pokemon or even a Mega Pokemon and just win the game in a single turn. Of course, it does come with a drawback, meaning you get to fill up your boards with Ents Pokemon, but I'm sure some people will be able to pull it off, making the supporter card viable. Like for example, you can only have 6 Pokemon in play, but if you have Area Zero Underdepths, and maybe even a Terra Pokemon being a cornerstone perhaps, you have more outs to be able to play the supporter card. But still, it is a lot to ask to be able to play the supporter card, but I'm glad to see the trainers Pokemon are getting more love in the upcoming set. And that is going to be it for today's video. Right, trainers, I would like to thank you all for watching. If you find this video helpful, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. And let me know in the comments down below what you think of the new cards, what impact they will have, and what combinations you will be using with the archetypes being mentioned. And with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one.